Welcome to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here today with Melissa Nash. Welcome, Melissa.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here today.
So excited to have you and chat. So, we are going to introduce you now. Melissa Nash knows what it feels like to be overwhelmed, overworked, and wondering if real estate is even worth it. As a burned out new realtor in California, she discovered out of state investing almost by accident, and it changed everything. Using what she now knows, the lazy investor method, she now calls lazy investor method, Melissa built a seven-figure rental portfolio while working full-time and raising four children, overseeing her entire portfolio in under 20 minutes a day. Wow. No sacrifice, no burnout, just smart strategic systems that do the heavy lifting for her. But she didn't stop there. Melissa has spent the last decade coaching over 2,000 investors and real estate agents to replicate her results, helping them collectively purchase more than 500 million in real estate. Her students regularly go from financial stress to generating 3,000 plus in monthly passive income within their first year. Her philosophy is simple. Real estate should give you your life back, not take it away. That's why her coaching focuses on out of state turnkey rentals and passive investing strategies designed especially for busy people who don't have time to become landlords. Perhaps her greatest proof of concept, three of her four children became property owners before they turned 18 because she taught them the same system she teaches her clients. If you are ready to build recession proof wealth without creating another job, Melissa is the coach who will show you exactly how. Learn more and work with her at positivelyrich.rentals.com. Wow. Okay. I can't wait to dive into this. You're incredible. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, before we dive in there, we need to figure out where you came from, where you were raised, what life was like, and did you know where you'd be today, where you would be as you were growing up, where you are now today?
No. I never imagined any of this. I grew up most of my life here in Southern California, and I got married young for, kind of today's standards. I was married by the time I was 23 and had my first baby by the time I was 24. And I've always been an entrepreneur in my, growing up. I was always coming up with business ideas and things I can do. And I did find myself always drawn to scrolling, like, going online and looking at real estate, like, when the internet was a thing, when that was possible.
When it was
I would
new.
always just Yeah, yeah, I always looked at real estate, but I didn't really think that I would ever, become a real estate agent or an investor. And, it wasn't until after my husband and I got married, I met his grandmother, and they called her rich grandma. And I was like, "Oh, why is she rich grandma?" And they're like, "Oh, she owns real estate," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So then I was kind of like, How does that correlate? Like, why does real estate make you rich?" And I didn't really understand it, but she owned single family houses and duplexes and things like that in Los Angeles that she had bought in like the 70s. And, by the time I met her, she was retired and those were all paid off, and she was just living off of the rental income. And I was like, "Okay, that's a thing, like, interesting. I wanna pursue that. I wanna learn more about that." So that's kind of how things started.
I love it. Oh my gosh. So when was your first property? Well, let's go back. So after you got married, you started having kids. When did you get into real estate? Did you start in real estate as a career?
No, not at all. I mean,
Oh,
I was a yeah, not at all. I was stay-at-home mom raising my babies. And I started a couple of businesses. I started a jewelry business, I started a clothing business, and I ended up bringing my husband over full time to this clothing business that I started. It was a children's clothing business, and we ended up growing it into a multi-million dollar business while my kids were young. We ran it full time, and it was our lifeblood. I mean, it was everything. We absolutely loved it, and until 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, that window, we were wholesaling, you know baby jeans that were $85. nobody was buying $85 baby jeans when these little boutiques were going out of business, that we were selling our brand to.
Right.
And so we ended up having to get rid of the business. We kind of sold it for, peanuts, and we were just kind of going, what do we want to do? Like, and my goal was like, what is recession proof? Because that was a big hit. $85 baby
Yes.
jeans were not recession proof.
No. So then what happened? So when did you, so as I have a new book coming out called Mindset in Motion, and one of the things I talk about the importance of pivoting and adjusting. So how did you come across, how did you step out of the $85 jeans and go into your next play?
Yeah, so, we had a tiny cushion, but it wasn't very much, and, we're a young family in Southern California with kids, and that's terrifying, right? It's like, okay, like,
Yes.
we we have to make money, like, what are we gonna do? Like, we spent the last 12 years building this business up, there's nothing else, and I was like, "Rich people own real estate." I was like, "Rich grandma" in the back of my mind, and I was like, "Okay, like, how do I do this?" And I was like, "I'm gonna become a real estate agent." So, I'm thinking I can learn how to be an investor by becoming an agent. Newsflash, you don't. But it was a start. I got my real estate license and I started kind of, doing the thing and putting out flyers and going to open houses and doing all the things. And I was like, okay, I'm working weekends, I'm doing open houses, I'm missing all the kids stuff, the evenings when they're home and the weekends. I was just missing it all. And I was like, I love this real estate thing, but there's got to be a way to do this where I can grow a portfolio for myself. And the math wasn't mathing in California. I was like,
Right.
How on earth is this gonna work?" And then I was like, I gotta figure that out. And then I don't know, I just started kind of looking at outside states, out of California, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I used to live in Georgia, and that's really affordable, and I used to I've got family in Alabama, and they can buy properties for cheap." And I was like, That's the ticket, is how can I buy properties out of state, live in California where I want?" And then once I kind of started looking into that, realizing that this is possible, I can do this. I bought my first property in Birmingham, Alabama, and
Wow.
it was a $50,000 property. So I put, like
Wow.
$15,000 down on it, and that was my Hail Mary of, let's see if this is gonna work.
And how did you find that property? How did you were a real estate agent, had like not a regular job, but you were a real estate agent, then what made you transition to actually invest in that, and how did you find it in Birmingham, Alabama?
Mhm, yeah, so in the meantime, when I was like, and by the way, I was also working a full-time job. So I was
Oh,
a real estate agent, a mom, I went back to work, and I was working a full-time job, and I was, just in this world of immersion, just trying to understand, like, what am I gonna do to build this up? I'm not happy just sitting still. And
right.
so I was just talking to people and reading books and, Napoleon Hill, and, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and, you know, the 4-Hour Work Week. And, I was just immersing myself in education and mindset. And I was like, I'm just gonna talk to everybody I know about this. And I was talking to somebody at work one day, and they were like, "There's gotta be a way to buy, rental properties," because he was on the same kind of mindset thing. And how do you
Hmm.
buy properties out of state? And so we were talking about that, and I ended up doing deep dives about it. And anyways, the long story short, I met people that were doing stuff out of state through just networking, just investor groups. There was no bigger pockets yet. That's a big network you go to. It was just kind of like individual groups and stuff. And I would go to local REI events and, just talking to people. And I ended up getting connected with this property through a group that was doing turnkey. They called it turnkey real estate. And that was my first, as a realtor, I was like, okay, a turnkey house. You put in the key, you turn it, you walk in, and the house is kind of renovated. Um, but the process was more than that. It wasn't just that. It was also the property management that had to be in place and,
Mm.
the lenders that were in place and, there was a whole team of people kind of putting this together for me. And so I used them to buy this first property.
And so were you in a partnership with a number of other people for the home, or was it just that you bought the home yourself?
Straight up by myself.
Okay.
I worked with a lender, 20% down, bought the property, titled and deeded to me. And that's how I've always done it. I've never partnered with anybody. Everything that
But it
I've
was the
done. Oh,
But yeah, I
sorry.
just wanted to, just so people are clear. So you bought the property, but you utilized a team of people who helped you identify the property, and they had property managers for you. I talk about that in my book too. It's like when we activate, we don't have to achieve our goal on our own. There's people. And what I love what you said was, you first of all, I want to go back because yes, you were in real estate, which is a commission job. As after 35 years being on commission in real estate, yes, you're on a highly commission job. But the second thing you were doing is, well, people think that you just all of a sudden invested in property. No, that's not what Melissa Nash did. Melissa Nash was reading, she was using all of her network and more. You were researching, you were finding groups. Yes, you were in real estate and you had the mindset, but you also had a full-time job where you were actually making money. So when people say they just invest, I just feel sometimes it doesn't give the full picture. And I appreciate you saying, because that kind of came out later that you had a full-time job, because you need to have some money in order to invest. So sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's super important that people know it just doesn't happen. You just don't say one day I'm going to be an investor and you start investing. So let's go on. That was your first property and you lived in California. So how did it was it were you afraid of having a property somewhere else? Did you go visit the property? What's it like to be a remote homeowner or investor? What's it feel like, and how did that work?
Yeah. So, it was terrifying. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. I didn't get on a plane. I didn't see it. I still haven't seen it. I've owned this property for over 12 years and I've never seen it. I've never seen
Wow.
any of my out of state properties. I've never been to the markets. I mean, I own properties in 5 states. I don't go there.
Wow.
Um,
I love it.
but what I do have is teams and processes in place. So I
Okay.
see everything virtually. I've seen
Hmm.
the inspection reports. I talked to the property managers and the nice thing about it, the remote investing is I can truly set it up as a non-emotional business. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, I don't have to be there being the one fixing things or talking to the tenants. I can focus on growing and scaling my
Right.
portfolio. So I don't mind that they're far away, and that freaks some people out. And at first
Right.
it did. It freaked me out, but then I was like, at the end of the day, the math is the math. I ran the
Right.
numbers. I didn't go into it, completely blind and naive. All investing is a risk, and I was like, "All
Right.
right, I've gotta do this first property and see if this is even gonna work." And it did, and today it's still one of my best performing properties.
So give us some real numbers. So you bought it for how much? How much did it rent 12 years ago, and how much is it renting today?
Yeah, so I will say that this was when I first bought it, I would call it like a D class. I mean, it was a rough area, okay? This
Oh,
is, we're not talking, great schools, any of that kind of stuff. Like this was a $50,000 property. I put about 15,000 down on it. The property managers were there in place. They took it over immediately. The first call I got shortly after I bought it, they were getting ready to place a tenant, and there was a squatter in the house. Stole the copper. Yeah, and so it was a little freak out, but then I realized very quickly that okay, like I'm gonna have to pay for that, but they're taking care of it.
right.
They're responsible for it. They're the boots on the ground. They were great. They, got it sorted, replaced some of the hot water lines or whatever it was that had the copper. They ended up putting a Section 8 tenant in place, and Section 8 is it's a voucher program that's a guaranteed rent check, from the government, and that tenant stayed there for, like, 7 years, and I had a
Wow.
guaranteed rent check every single month, And while they were there, I didn't raise the rent at all. And in the beginning, the rents, it was like $500 a month was the
Wow.
rent.
Yeah.
And I think I was making like $200 a month or something like that. But it was positive, guaranteed rent check every month.
Right.
And the nice thing about it is the reason why we love real estate is I'm locked into that loan. The interest
Right.
rate has never changed, and the tenant has been paying down my mortgage. And I collect the cash flow. The property's gone up in value. Today, so once that tenant left, then all of a sudden the property managers brought the rents back up to market value. So the rents now at market value are about $950 a month.
Nice.
And yeah, the property is probably worth about 140, 150,000. And so I've got amazing equity in the property, and the property cash flows well over $500 a month. And I don't do anything. Like, it's 100% passive. Like, I literally am the lazy investor. And that's where I got that term, is
I love
because
it.
I buy houses from my couch. I'm in my pajamas most of the day. I am the ultimate lazy investor.
I love it. Of course, I was going to ask you, the next question was, how did you get the lazy investor name? So, have you ever leveraged by taking out a loan on that property now that it has appreciated, or have you leveraged other properties that you own to buy other properties?
Absolutely, yes. I am a big fan of leverage and not leaving lazy money in properties. That's lazy couch potato money. Yes, and also I've done 1031 exchanges, which means that
Okay,
you can defer your taxes when you sell a property to upgrade and buy more. So that is the trick. That is the secret sauce I want everybody to hear is, some people might have, a little bit of money saved up to buy a property, and then they go, "Okay, what do I do now? Do I save up again and can't buy another property for 5 years?" Well, I mean, yes, you can do that, or let the property grow. If you're buying in an area that's got just even a little bit of appreciation happening, you've got that equity in there. You can tap into that. You can pull that out and buy more properties. And so that's how I've been able to scale and grow my portfolio, is through that leverage for sure.
perfect. I love it. Um, so, let's describe. So, someone wants to work with you in your coaching program. Describe what the components of the lazy investor method is.
Yeah, so since that first property, and I was continuing to buy more properties after that, everybody kind of that I knew around my circle were like, "Hey, how are you doing that? How are you buying properties out of state, 2,000 miles away?" And it seems like it's working. Like, I want to do that too. So as I was doing it, I was creating systems. Like,
Okay.
what would make this journey better, easier? And so I've kind of broken it down into a three-part process. You need the property, you need the people, and you need the process. And so most people, we're busy working professionals, and we don't have time to do a lot of this. So I've kind of put in the hard work for people. And so I analyze markets monthly. I have data, 12 years worth of data of these markets where my clients have been buying, I've been buying. So I see the
Wow.
progression, and I know what these markets have done. So I'm focusing first on landlord friendly markets, markets that have high rental demand. We got to have some cash flow. We've got to have some appreciation. So there's a formula in how to identify these out of state markets. So that's what I teach people is how to identify those markets. But then I'm also going to give you the markets. Go. And by the way,
Okay.
here's my market research, and here's the markets I'm in. But I want you to learn about it too. Like, I
Right.
truly want people to learn. And then it's like, okay, well, how do you analyze a deal? How do you know if a property is good or not? So I teach people how to do that. I give you my spreadsheets and the stuff that I already had hired engineers to build out for me. Done. I
Wow.
give I give you mine. And then from there, it's like, okay, why real estate? Why do you want to own real estate? Does it fit within your retirement plan? Do you want cash flow now? So we're kind of goal setting and figuring out what it is you want it to do for you. And it's not, what I do is long-term investing. It's not get rich quick,
Right.
flipping, wholesaling, all that stuff. That's not what this is. This is for the person that's like, "Hey, I want to buy a property, and I'm going to hold it long term, and I'm going to let it do its thing. We're gonna let the rents increase. We're gonna let the tenant pay down the mortgage. this is a long-term value add that we add to our portfolio. Um, so it's that mindset piece. And then people get to a point, and also, loans. What is available for investors? LLC setups, like all these things that people question and don't
Mhm.
understand. It's done for you. I literally hand it
Mm.
all to you and go, call this person, do this.
Wow.
This is the process. This is the step by step. And then people go, "Okay, great. Now how do I buy a property? Where do I get a property from?" So I've built my own network of my trusted people. So in each of these markets, I have vetted the rehabbers, the flippers, the property managers, everybody that you want.
Wow.
And they actually give me these properties off market. These do not go on the MLS. So if you're working with me, literally, I will hand you a list of 30 to 40 off market properties that I've already analyzed
Wow.
and go, "There
That's
you go, pick one."
incredible.
So I've
Wow. That's
simplified it. I've
incredible.
simplified it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So what is the cost for someone to work with you? I mean, it sounds incredible. I have met so many people, obviously, in the last 2 years on my podcast, and um, I, I I have to say I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed. You break it down very simply. And so, how does someone work with you? What's the cost? Is it a coaching cost, or is it a cost to invest with you, or you get a commission from that, or how does that work?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and this is a really important question because I truly want to see where people are at and what they need before I just tell them to do something. So, I usually want to talk to people. And the first thing I ask them is like, "Hey, do you want more education? Like, where are you in the journey of understanding real estate investing?" And if they're like, "Yeah, Melissa, I need a little bit more education. I need a little bit more hand holding," then I do have a program that you can buy that it's an online course that's got videos that you can just immerse yourself in that. And that program is about $2,500, lifetime access to that. But that's not for everybody. Not everybody needs that. I work with plenty of people that are like, "Melissa, I've been looking for you to get the properties. That's all I want. Like I know what I want to do. I have my
Yeah.
goal setting. I understand why real estate is amazing. I just want to get my hands on those properties." I'm like, "Perfect. You don't have to do the coaching if you don't need it, but it's there for people who want that hand holding and support." So if somebody's just like, "Melissa, hook me up with these properties," then yeah, I will hook you up with the properties. And there's two ways that we can do that. If you want to just go for it on your own and you're like, "Hey, Melissa, I don't need any help. I don't need any assistance. Just hand me over the lists and make me to introductions to people," then you can do that and you can join. It's called the Deal Bank. It's $197 a month, and I have lists of properties in there, all the resources, everything that you need. And I highlight properties, I analyze the properties, and I give them to
Wow.
people. Yeah, and again, that may or may not be the fit for somebody. If somebody's like, "Hey, Melissa, I want a little bit more hand holding. Let's kind of I want you to hand pick some properties for me, help me through this," then we'll go that route as well. Um, so essentially, my answer is there is a free version. There's free coaching inside I have a school community. There's some free resources in there. There's my monthly program, or there's a course. It really depends on what people need. I don't want to, assume anything with anybody. So I've kind of created different funnels to where people are at in their journey.
I love it. Well, I'm very excited to speak with you offline on that. We are going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back with Melissa Nash. Thank you.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant. Like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Mike Zorich, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here with Melissa Nash. And I just want to I'll have you recap the various ways people can work with you. You know, we've explained them, but you have your 197 a month if people just want to see the properties. And then what are the others?
Yeah. So I have a free school community, and if you go to passivelyrichwithrentals.com, you can join that. And I do have some education stuff in there, and we talk in there about different things people are doing. So it's a great free community if you want to kind of get your feet wet. And if you're like, hey, Melissa, I want to see the deals, like just give me access to these. These are pretty awesome. I mean, we're talking cash on cash returns from 9 to 14% year one with a property that's already renovated with a property manager. So they're really good deals that I've already vetted out for you. So if you want to get access to those, that's what's $197 a month. You
Okay.
can join, you can, be in there as long as you want. You can quit, it's monthly, whatever. And then I do have a coaching program that is one-on-one. That's about $2,500 for the year, and it's lifetime access.
Awesome. Thank you for recapping that for us. So, what are some of the areas? You said there were 14 markets that you like. Give us 5 of the top areas and why you see them appreciating.
Yeah. So number one, I love Indianapolis. Indianapolis has been such a strong market because we can still get that cash flow. And this is what happens in a lot of markets. The appreciation goes up and rents don't keep up because
Hmm.
rents are driven by, costs of wages, minimum wages. And so when you get to an area where the appreciation went up, we can't just make the rents go up because the values of the properties did. So we're always looking for that fine line of like, where is it still affordable? And then also, where can we cash flow? Indianapolis, I've been involved in that market for over 12 years. I have a couple really strong teams there that do phenomenal renovations, and we see
Oh, nice.
consistent returns, around that 8 to 10% just year one. And when we've got appreciation happening at about 4 to 5% annually, and we've got rentals increasing, the rent amount increasing by 4 to 5% a year. It's pretty good. So investors have been very happy, very solid there. You can get into a good neighborhood there for about 160 to about 200,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say
Yeah.
500. Wow.
No, no. And what's crazy is like we can't even get a shed for 100,000 here.
And so are these in safe areas?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of out of state investors are like, at first they imagine owning these rentals in an area that they would live in, and they're like, this is what I want, and this is what I care about, and I have to have 2 bathrooms, and I have to have a walk-in closet, and I have to be in the best schools. Like, that's not gonna happen. That's not what these are. We're providing safe, affordable housing. I'm not a slumlord. I don't want you to be a slumlord. We're talking about renovating a property that now has a new roof, new windows, a nice renovation. We want to provide safe and affordable housing. So
Mm,
there are 50% of the population in Indianapolis rent. And so rental demand is so strong and it's so high.
wow.
Not a lot of people can buy their own house or afford their own house, and they want to live where they grew up or they want to live where the jobs are. And so that's what these are. These are safe areas where the property managers feel safe. They're not going to go to areas that they do not feel safe.
Right.
And so when you can go there and find a good tenant who, can afford to live there, and you've got a good property manager, that's success right there. And we're putting cash flow in our pocket as well. So that's a great market. I love St. Louis. I love
Just wanna
Oh,
ask
yeah,
one more
sorry.
question. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
you gave a lot of great information. One of the questions, like, what sort of, businesses are there? What are people doing for work? Who is the demographic of the people? Are they people going to college? Are they people who've lived there and grew up there all their life? Are they coming in because, companies are coming there?
Yeah, so great question, and one of the most important things that I look for in a market is job diversity. We wanna
Okay.
see a lot of different jobs. We wanna see, Indianapolis has tech, it has hospitals, it has universities, it has sports teams, it has, little companies, big companies, warehouse, distribution. There's so many employers and, medical. We've got big
Mm,
pharmaceutical companies there. And so that's what we want. We don't want to go to a town where it's like, an oil business and that's it. Like the whole town is built on this oil company. Well, what happens when that oil company like decides to close up shop and leave? There's no jobs left. So we
right.
need to be in diverse job areas. And so that's one of the reasons why I love markets like Indianapolis and St. Louis and Birmingham, Alabama, and some of the Ohio markets that I'm in. I'm also involved in markets like Florida and North Carolina, and those states scare people because they think, oh, there's flooding and flood insurance and all these things.
Right.
And there's a lot of opportunity in some of the Florida markets right now, as long as you're not in those flood zones, because the market has corrected itself over the past couple of years. So there's plenty of opportunity there as well.
Wonderful. That's incredible. So busting myths. Many agents and investors think passive investing is too risky and or complicated. What are the biggest myths you hear?
Yeah, it's funny because I watch all those, like, I'll see different people on, like, social media, and they're like, "Rental properties are dead," and I was like, "Well, that says who? It depends on, where are you investing?" And so, to me, I'm not I have done renovations. I've flipped my own properties, I've done that, that's active investing. And if you want to do that, go for it, but that's a second job. I don't wanna do that anymore. Like, I attempted it after, I was buying turnkey rentals for a while. I've gotten into Airbnb, I still own Airbnb properties. Then I was like, I experimented with everything. I pretty much have done it all. And, I won't go back to renovating my own properties. It's just too much stress and too much headache, and it's
Right.
a
Right.
full-time job. So for me, it's really connections. So if people are saying you can't buy properties passively, you don't know the right people. You don't know me. You haven't met me yet.
Right.
That's the answer. You've got to network. This is a people business.
Right.
There's plenty of opportunities out there. You can't go on Zillow and, try to make it work on your own. I mean, sure, people can. I'm not going to say you can't. And you can
Right.
make anything work if you really put in the time and the effort. But that goes back to that, like, how much time and effort do you wanna put into this? And you can do it passive. I do it passive.
Right. Are there special groups? Are there groups? Where's your network? Where are you finding? I mean, I know you have your own, but are there organizations or networks or groups or Facebook pages that people should look to get information to learn more?
Um, of course. I mean, yes. And here's what I'm gonna say about that. So Bigger
Hmm.
Pockets is the big, real estate investment forum, and Bigger Pockets has changed. I was involved in Bigger Pockets early on, probably about 12 years ago or so. It's changed a lot, and I love it and I hate it because I love it because you're gonna get everybody's opinion, and I hate it because you're gonna get everybody's opinion.
Mm,
Everybody has opinion about what they've done, and people are like, "Oh, I live here, and I invest here, and I do this, and you should only do this, and you should only do that," and and it gets just so much noise, and then you start going, there's 20 different ways you can invest in real estate, and people need to decide, like, what what type of real es how much time and money do you have to invest in this? If you have a full-time job and you're like, "I don't wanna flip houses, I don't wanna deal with rehabs," well, then, work with me and buy turnkey properties. That's the easy way. But if you have time and you don't have money to put down, then maybe you should do some renovations and do, hire your own contractors and put your sweat equity in so that you can refinance it and pull that cash out. Um, it is going to take a lot of education and a lot of time to do it. It's not as easy as people make it sound. but it
Right. I
can
know
be done.
everyone wants to flip a house and find a good deal.
Yep, yep, and I'm cleaning up those messes, like, you wouldn't believe it, like, the messes people have gotten into, and I'm like, "Oh, geez, I'm sorry." That's bad.
What is one of you've had a lot of successes, so tell us a few of your successes and stories where you were really excited that it went the way it did, and then share with us something that you learned from. I don't want to say a mistake. I just want to something that you learned from because we need to learn from our mistakes so we can get better and improve.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I it's just get a deal done. Get your first property done. Um,
Hmm.
you know, I would not be where I am today if I didn't buy that first property in Birmingham, Alabama, and take that risk and get it done. You learn so much by doing and just the
Right.
confidence. And I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And so that's led me on this journey where I've been involved in with my own portfolio, at least 100 transactions of closings of properties. And I've sold some and I've kept some. And, as I'm building this thing, right now where I am in my growth is how can I not it's almost like a game to me where it's a challenge now where I'm like, what is the next
Hmm.
challenge? So for me, the next challenge is how can I get a property, do the least amount of work and put the least amount of money into it?
I like that.
So it's that I guess it's the lazy challenge I put on myself. And so I've been coming up with and developing different systems to do this. And I've been able to do about 5 or 6 now. I closed on another one last year where I got into a really nice rental property for under $10,000
Wow.
as the down payment. And I didn't do any of the work. I didn't do the renovations. I don't manage the property. And so I'm like, okay, so now I figured this out. Now, how can I teach this to other people? But it's not just teaching it to other investors. What it boils down to again, it's the people. So there's people involved that help me do that. So that one of my latest ones was in Memphis, Tennessee. And I have a connection there that was able to help me get a property before it was renovated. And then he did the renovation. So he sourced the property for me. He did the renovation for me. And then I was able to gain that equity because I bought the property before it was done, and then when I did the cash out refinance, that equity gain was my down payment. So I just had some closing costs to pay. And so that worked one time. And then I'm like, okay, how can we repeat this? And how can we repeat it again? And then it works for everybody. Everybody's got some meat on the bone and everybody's happy. And so now I'm helping introduce my investors to these people so they can do it also. And so, not to kind of make it too confusing, but I definitely think that you have to start at least one property before you can all of a sudden jump and do these types of things because there is a little bit of a learning curve there and a little bit of a confidence curve. Um,
Hmm.
but so that is my goal with my clients is to kind of get them to take those baby steps, invest with training wheels. And then as their knowledge expands, then they can do more and grow more. And then from there it's limitless.
I love it. So Nashville is another good market. We hear a lot of people from California moving to Nashville.
Well, so this is in Memphis. Nashville, I do have somebody that's doing some new builds there that's phenomenal, and they've got some projects there. But yes, you're right. So many people have moved to Nashville that the prices have just gotten insane.
Right.
So, there's a little bit of meat on the bone in those deals. There's a little bit of cash flow, but you really have to look at those and go, this is a long-term investment. Is that area going to continue to grow? Is that
Got it.
place I want to put my money in?
So
But yeah,
Memphis is the
mhm,
better option. Okay. And is that
yeah,
and well, I guess, as a Californian, we're so spoiled, especially in Northern California, we're so spoiled by weather. And I know the weather is much different there, but I guess the people there are probably a lot of people that live and have grown up there and work there. But um, is there a lot of infrastructure in Memphis? I've never been.
yeah, yeah. So FedEx Hub is there. And
Oh, wow.
so yeah. So many companies are built around FedEx too, just the shipping
Okay.
and the distribution. And
Right.
Memphis is just a really good location between getting to Atlanta and getting down to the
Mm,
south. And it's just, it's on the river. And so it's just an idyllic spot where
okay.
you just have a lot going on and just generations of people that grow up. And I think that's the biggest thing that I have found in some of these southern states that I invest in. and the Midwest is people love to live where they grew up and love to live where their family is.
That's
This is
what
where
I
their
keep
roots
hearing.
are.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I keep hearing that thread. I'm have my family still lives. I'm still around all my family, so I can see that. It doesn't matter the weather pattern. It's people like to live where they're from and where their family is. So systems over hustle. You manage your entire portfolio in under 20 minutes a day. What are the top systems that make that possible?
Yeah. So number one, hire out a property manager whenever you can. That's
Good.
number one.
Yes. Yes.
Hire it
Yeah.
out. Get your time back. The other thing is, I self-manage my Airbnb properties, and, with those, I have automations. I've got messages that go out automatically. I've got pricing that goes out automatically. I don't sit there and, "Oh, I got a guest request that wants to stay with me." It's already automated. Everything is done. So that is the ticket, is automate what you can and hire out what you can so that you're freeing up your time, and that's really my ultimate goal. Is we want more time freedom. That's what this is about. It's future
Right.
financial security, but it's what's going to free up my time now, because that's the most valuable, commodity, is our time.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about, I think we may have met on a call because of the Airbnb. Tell us a little bit. I know a lot of places are, a lot of cities don't want Airbnb, so there are some places that can't. What's your experience in Airbnbs and how many do you have? And that must take a lot of time. People book for 3 days or 4 days or one, like it just seems like a lot of effort. But tell us a little bit about your experience.
Okay. I have a lot. I mean, I could go off on this forever. I've had celebrities that have stayed and they're the worst guests to ever
I
have.
know. I know.
I mean, I am like, oh my gosh, this I won't even go into that story, but yeah, a lot of not a lot of thinking. They're used to people doing everything for them. But I started off with my first Airbnb, and it was so great and it was so good. And I had a property manager that was managing it for me. And I was like, this is amazing. And I went into it with the mindset of, I want to buy a property that my family and I can go use. I just want it to break even. I
Right.
want it to be a vacation home. I can get tax write-offs for it. Somebody else is paying it off. We can use it. And I had hired a property manager because it was out of state. I didn't really know like what to do. And it was a good decision, and to do that. The property ended up being so busy that we couldn't even go use it, because all the times we wanted to use it,
Wow. Where
it
was
was
it? Where
booked.
is, yeah.
In Utah. Yeah, in a ski town in
Okay.
Utah.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, and so it was like, when the snow is good, of course everybody wants to use it, you know? Um, so I long story short, I ended up selling that property because it was in an HOA. I don't recommend HOAs, I hate them. Um, but I did a 1031 exchange, and, I was able to buy a dream property in Palm Springs. That is, I love mid-century, and I always wanted to own a property there, but I couldn't really justify it. And so I was like, okay, again, if the tenants can just pay for it, and we can use it whenever we want. And so then that kind of started the trend. I ended up buying 8 Airbnbs. I actually sold off a bunch of my long-term rentals because Airbnbs were so hot. And this was during like around the COVID time. And this is where a lot of people made mistakes, myself included, is we thought that the Airbnb boom was so big because everybody was stuck at home and they could travel. Once the travel restrictions were lifted, people had remote jobs, so everybody was traveling and going, and they wanted to stay at an Airbnb and get out of, their neighborhoods and whatever. And so the numbers were overly inflated and overly spiked. So when the whole COVID thing kind of shut down and a couple years passed, now all of a sudden everybody's rentals, the bookings just dropped
Right.
because people weren't staying at the properties as long anymore, and people had to go back to work, and they weren't remote working, and and so everybody started freaking out. And so this really is sorry, I'm kind of diverting here, but it goes to the
No.
importance of, why are you buying why do you want to do these short-term rentals, these Airbnbs? And again, it went back to my philosophy was, I don't care if I don't cash flow from these. They're properties that I wanna use with my family. They're
Hmm.
properties we use to vacation in, and somebody's paying them off. So if we can break even and I get the tax benefits, which have Airbnbs have the hugest tax benefit, by the way.
Oh,
There's the
okay.
short-term rental loophole. It's insane. And so I was getting insane tax write-offs and all these things. So, I can justify it. So that's my piece of advice to anybody because everybody's talking about Airbnbs right now. They're really stressful because if a tenant decides to take, 20 baths a day, you're paying for that water, you're paying for the hot, the heat, you're
Right,
getting those bills. My long-term rentals, the tenants pay for all utilities, you know. But with
right.
with short-term rentals, I'm constantly, hiring the hot tub techs. I'm replacing towels. I'm
Mm,
replacing pots and pans and linens. And, there's a lot of upkeep on these properties when you have this many turnovers. The time isn't bad because everything is automated. So
mhm.
I'm not, so time wise, that's not the stress. It's more just the overhead constantly. And somebody's like, oh my gosh, there was a dead mouse in the pool. And I'm like, yeah, it's the desert. That's what happens, and then they're like, "Oh, I want a refund," and, it's just that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. You gotta have really thick skin
right,
to
right,
own short-term rentals, and you have to be prepared for the ups and downs, and city regulations. A city can just snap their
right,
fingers and your Airbnb is shut down. That's happening all
right,
over the country. So you have to really understand why you're doing this and really make sure that you're running the true analysis and not just getting caught up in hype.
right. And also, it sounds like you want a place that you might enjoy using when it's not rented. I know I love it. That's all great advice. So you believe real estate should give people their lives back. What does freedom look like for you today?
Well, I'm an empty nester now. So our youngest just went to college and my husband and I spent 2 months at our Palm Springs rental. And that's freedom is we were there for 2 months enjoying the property and I've got my clients and I've got my coaching that I absolutely love and I have my podcast that I love and I get to choose how I want to spend my time. I'll never retire. People say that all the time is like, "Oh, when are you going to retire?" And I'm like, I don't have to work tomorrow, but I love to work. I wanna work. The
I know.
education is just I love helping people, I love coaching people, and I love the challenge of real estate. There's always a new challenge around the corner, and I'm always like there's always a fun surprise, so it never gets boring. But yeah, waking up and being like, "Okay, what am I gonna do today?" It's kinda scary, but it's new and it's fun.
It is. It's like in real estate, we're juggling. We're like, okay, what's going to happen today? And it's fun and
Yes,
it is
it
different and
happened.
it offers a challenge and it is exciting. It's definitely not boring. So we are getting towards the end. What is one or two pieces of advice you could give your 25-year-old self when you were just starting out? Now, you obviously coached your children when they were young. So what is some advice you can offer to us and our children?
Yeah, so if you want to make a better life for yourself, you can't just expect other people to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. And the only way you're going to do it is through education and mindset. And, you're the queen of this. You have books about mindset. You have to, we're not taught this stuff in school. We have to go
Mhm.
out and seek it. We have to be prepared to change our minds. Like, real estate investing. I mean, it seems so easy and so simple, but when you really look at it and you go, okay, the richest people in this country own real estate. There's got to be something to that. Let's go find
Right,
out like what's behind it? Why? Why are they making money on real estate? Asking ourselves the why and then go the next level. Go, but why? And but why? Constantly breaking down the why and then being open to having our minds blown because we're taught to be good workers in school. Get the 401k, get the W-2 job. That's what we're taught. And then you go,
right.
okay, why? Why? Why are they teaching us that? What, just breaking it down and then seeking that knowledge. That's it. It's just continue to seek knowledge.
I love it. I think it's great. So how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So if you go to passivelyrichwithrentals.com, the first thing you're going to see is you're going to see a video and it's like, watch me break down $135,000 property. and
Oh,
let's see the numbers, because that's people always want to say is like, or they want to see that. They're like, just show me. I want to see it. So I'm like, I'll show it to you. Great. Watch it. Watch the video. And then after you watch the video, if you want to get a copy of that spreadsheet, if you want to, connect with me, if you want to be in my community, you can sign up and then you'll be in my world.
I love it. Well, this was so informative. I'm so excited to chat with you after the show because I'm just so inspired. Thank you so much, Melissa, for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. And I'm going to get you on my podcast.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Success with host Debbie DiMaggio. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Real stories, real strategies, real success.